Good morning, everybody. It's Mike with smartoptiontrading.com. It is Sunday, the 8th of February. Hope you're having a great weekend. It's Super Bowl Sunday. No charts today, so we're going to do a video and I'm going to put that out there for free. I'm also going to put a link in the description. If you want to join us in our room, 50 bucks for the first 30 days, cancel anytime, then it goes to normal price. So let's talk about what we have coming up this week. This week, we go in, it's a full trading week, then we go into the 3-day holiday weekend for President's Day here in the United States. Trump has said over the weekend that he plans on meeting with Iran sometime in the next week or so again. If they want more talks, there's no rush. So it sounds like nothing is imminent there. Over that, Olympics are going on and things are overall fairly quiet. From an economic perspective this week, we have a ton of Fed speak. Miran, who is technically no longer on the Fed, his term expired on January 31st, has one, two, three speaking engagements coming up. We have retail sales on Tuesday morning. The big one is going to be non-farm payroll, which we didn't get, will be on Wednesday at 8:30. I'll open the room early for those, and the CPI inflation look on Friday. So for you members in the room, we'll be opening the room at 8:25 for these three on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday. Right. Earnings switches gears this week. Most of the big names are done, but there's a ton of names coming at us. So for me this week, Cliff is interesting to me. We'll see what they have to say on Monday night. Another look at the semi on semi on Monday night. Open. I know you guys love that one. We'll see what they have to say. They've been beaten the hell out of. Tuesday morning, we'll see if Coke can live up to the expectations on this run. You have Spotify overnight. Datadog is in there. Wednesday night, the big one for me is Hood. How are they doing? What's going on there? They've been beaten up. They traded all the way down under 70 here briefly um, last week. We'll see if what they're doing there. ALB, Lyft, Ford is a holding of mine. UPST, Gilead at all-time highs. Cloudflare to solve the problems. Wednesday morning, Shopify, another look at an online retailer. Unity, a look at the gaming name, the software name. They're getting killed. Kraft Heinz, T-Mobile, McDonald's. We'll see what they have to say. AppLovin is in there. ALB, we'll look at lithium trade, Cisco, QuantumScape for you guys like the little ones. Thursday morning, nothing grabs my attention, but Thursday night, Coinbase, Pinterest, Rivian, Toast, DraftKings, and AMAT, and then we have Moderna and CCJ on Friday morning. People in the room, I'll be staying late with you on Tuesday and Thursday. Monday night, I have to leave a little early. All right, let's talk sentiment as we come in here, and let's start off with Bitcoin first. This is a real-time look at Bitcoin and what's going on compared to the Bitcoin US dollar here, and you can see right now. As of Sunday morning, Bitcoin is trading at 71,000 and is trying to come off the lows. Came down to 60 area where we bounced, and here we're seeing trying to get a bounce. We'll continue on this. We'll talk more about that in a minute. From a sentiment perspective, start off the oscillators. The Nasdaq went from a heavily nice little signal at 250 area now to negative 78, is on the negative side of neutral. The New York Stock Exchange is at plus 37 on the positive side of neutral. Your advanced decline lines all curled up. Look at the moves on the SPY, the Dow, and the small caps, right? They're leading. The Nasdaq just came along for the ride. Highs versus lows on the S&P 500. New 52 plus week high, plus 293 versus negative 34. Very strong market there, very strong numbers. On the Nasdaq, which we had been heavily inverted now, plus 388 versus negative 228. We're positive again. All right, so the number of stocks making highs versus lows has changed quickly. The put to call remains neutral. Again, this has become a bad indicator because all these daily options. And on a market breadth, nice push back up on the NASDAQ, turned up, and on the NASDAQ, on the New York Stock Exchange, new all-time highs leading up, looking good. So let's talk about where we are, and we're going to start off with our friend, the ES, and go from there. ES had a big engulfing overnight candle, right? And we always talk about this when we look at the SPY, that sometimes these reversals start on the ES. And, by the time the market opened on Friday, we were already up quite a bit. And, the low was put in just after the futures opened on Thursday night. And then by the time we opened, everybody was trapped. And you had this big move up and you completely engulfed Thursday's candle and closed back above all the moving averages. That is a powerful candle, guys. There's no other way to say it. The NQ, very similar, except did not retake the moving averages. But, come on, there we go. Bonds, not doing much. We talked about Bitcoin. This can be a big one to watch this week. Can it regain some of these levels? It's back over 70 now. If it holds over 70, the 75 area becomes your next big area. And then we'll look to see if we could pop up and try to work our way up into these 80 areas again. You know, um, all these crypto people who have been screaming and saying it's going higher, higher, saying the low is in. I don't know that the low is in. I am not a good enough person on crypto to tell you that. I will tell you there's some problems here, and if the selling comes back, the low may not be in. And if it is, isn't 50 to 50, 55 to 50 is your next areas to watch. 55 first and 50. So just keep that in mind, whether the low is in or not. I do know there's panic out there. There's blood in the streets. That is usually the time you should be looking to buy some. Gold going sideways, holding in. Silver, another big down candle, but bounced again, came all the way down into the low 60s. Crude, nothing going on here. It's holding these higher levels, waiting to see what's going to happen with Iran. VIX gave a huge buy signal, closed out of the Bollinger Bands on Thursday, completely back down, back in the Bollinger Band, saying everything's fine. HYG turned up nicely with the markets. The transport's highs. This is leading. This is good for the markets, and the dollar firmed up. When we watch the SPY this week, we'll see what we're going to get here. We got a 3% pullback. This is one of four or so we've already had in the last couple of months. And this pattern continues. And if you understand this pattern has been put a new all-time high and then pull and yank, barely put a new all-time high and yank. And we've been doing this. We've been making a series of higher highs. We had been making a series of higher lows, but we breached that here. Now, it doesn't mean it's game over, but we did indeed breach it coming off of here, right? So, you can see coming off this candle, we breached that, but we've taken it back. So we're back into the channel here, back above all the moving averages here on the S&P 500. The other thing to note here is this market very much likes to screw people. Okay, it is a sign of a market that is sideways. When markets are sideways, they're looking for ways to generate income. They generate income by using algorithms and programs to go out there and try to screw everybody up. So on Thursday, we closed pretty much on the dead lows, just off of it on the SPY, and looked like you should get some follow through. And if you held your shorts overnight, the next morning you came in and we gapped up, everybody was trapped and they squeezed everybody, and that's what they've done. They've did it here, right? We did it over here. We did it over here. We've been doing this whole entire thing. Nothing has really changed. So for this week, the market, the all-time high is 697.84. That's easy to get. 698.96 is the pre-market high that we saw. So it is very easy for it to push back up, and there doesn't seem to be anything really in the way of it unless crypto comes and pukes again. To the downside, if we lose this and we lose this 676.90 area that grabbed here, you start looking to 671.21 as an area, and we'll put a 5% pullback notification on there, keeping it simple. All right, so let's talk what else is going on out there. Let's start off with the banks, and the banks have been holding firm, right? They haven't been the best, but they're holding firm, and that's the regular banks. The regional banks have been even stronger. They've been on a tear. I don't tend to trade these things. I struggle with them, but man, I wish I had paid attention a little bit more to them. ALLY, right? Huntington Bank, they're very strong. The big banks have been mixed. Goldman, which was one of the best off of earnings, is just kind of floundering. Same thing with Morgan Stanley. We've seen Wells Fargo go on a tear, not far from the all-time high. Bank of America also right to that all-time high. Citigroup is, for all intents and purposes, at its all-time highs. JP Morgan, nice little push recovering. So keep an eye on them. You guys keep asking me about SoFi. I don't know what to tell you here. They did not like that offering they did. They did not like that report. They sold it. It is not recovering with the rest. I don't have a feel for this one right now, and I'm tempted to just leave it alone. Same thing with names like Rocket and Open, which reports this week. Energy has been strong, moving up here to all-time highs, and it's been led by a couple of the big names. ExxonMobil, new all-time high. This thing's been on a tear. Chevron is closing in on the all-time high of 189.68. Devon Energy is the other one. These have been leading this little area. The rest of them, nothing wrong with them, but they're just not leading like those guys. So, continue to keep an eye on them. BE, I thought it was a fine report, but they didn't really reward it. It's kind of just sitting here going sideways. Not clear what that one wants to do. All right, let's talk XBI, biotech. First of all, hims and hers. This thing's going to be down heavily here on the morning open. They have withdrawn their pill to take on Wegovy, and this is probably this company's in a bad way. This company's likely to see a lot of pain. This one could be going away. I would try to be very careful with this one. Lilly continues to be a monster, sitting up here nicely. Gilead, that reports this week, is at an all-time highs. It's been running. BMY had a great report, new highs, 63.21, my next target there. J&J, new all-time highs. They continue to pile into them. These safety names, Coke reports this week, I'm not touching them. Pepsi, CL, you get the idea, all very strong. CAT, also new all-time highs, right? They continue to like these names. The market has broadened out. And that's what you have to realize here that, everybody's like this is, markets, nothing's moving. Actually, market's moving well. Breadth overall remains strong. It's not playing in tech. And that's what I keep trying to get across to you guys is that the trade has changed. Walmart, new all-time highs. This thing's been on a tear. Costco's gotten back above 1,000. For you guys like Target, it's also moving up. Even Home Depot is acting somewhat better. So retail is holding in. We'll see what retail sales bring us. Let's bring our focus over to coin quickly. Coin, it reports this week. We'll see what it does. These crypto names, Mara, Riot, Hut, CLSK, all been beaten to a pulp. Keep an eye on them. If they bounce, they're easy trades. I prefer. Another one is IBIT. Very easy one to trade. I own that. Hood reports this week. Again, we talked for the last month or so about this in this head and shoulders pattern that was sitting there on this. It triggered, it broke that 100 area. It came down, pre-market area came down a little bit more. You can see it here on the 5 minute. You can see here, here's your low of 68.67, and it's coming up. What they say and how it goes will be very interesting. They've also become very linked to crypto. Part of the problem Hood is experiencing is that their P&E was just way too high, and they're beating up companies with very high P&Es right now. Again, if crypto sells, this probably goes with it. Keep that in mind. All right, let's go to the SMHs here. The SMHs we're leading have been off the highs, but holding better back above all the moving averages. Fine, are we getting rest? Not really. SanDisk, yep, on the 8 day, but still very tight. Look up here. Same thing, Micron, Western Digital, these names, STX, very, very strong right at the all-time highs, no pullback. Same thing with the manufacturers of the equipment to produce semis, right? AMAT, which reports this week, are holding at the highs. We've seen some changes elsewhere. First of all, Intel continues to act very strong. Don't love the name, but I will trade it on occasion. And that gap sitting here at 51.49 on watch because this one is just looks like it wants to gig at it. Just they sold earnings. They've never let it go very far. They brought it back. Overall, it's hanging very well. You look around the rest. ARM, they bought the weakness back and it pushed it up. Qualcomm, they also bought some of the weakness back, but that gap sitting there, keep an eye on that. That gap at roughly 139.45 area, right? Talk about some of the big boys out there. Avgo to me should have been up a lot more off those Google report. With Google increasing their capex, a lot of that money goes to Avgo. It couldn't go. You got to watch that 340 area. That's the level to take. Nvidia is a couple of weeks yet from earnings. We had a beautiful, powerful candle there on Friday. We'd like to see it build on that, get above that high, push to 190, and then test this 195 area. And 196 is the real level to clear. And if you clear that, if you clear that here, 196, 212, 19 is the all-time high, and it is within range. I've gone on record. I thought AMD was a good report. I think it eventually, if the market wakes up and the semis and everything wakes up and go back in, the market just wanted more. The market wanted that NVIDIA moment, that Micron moment, that SanDisk moment. AMD is not like that. They are slow and steady. Lisa's losing a little bit of credibility because she constantly keeps saying the big money's coming and she keeps pushing the timeline of it back. Now she's saying second half of this year. We'll see where we go out there. But bottom line here is overall, this is an interesting move here. We'll see if it can wake up. That gap sitting there at 218.59 has my attention. All right, let's switch over to big cap tech. Let's start off with software. Software just getting pummeled here. Palantir was a great report. There's not a lot not to like what they're doing there. There was one negative on that. I picked up on that report when I read through it and then listened to it, and that is they're not signing a lot of new customers. They're doing a great job of monetizing their existing customer base, but they're not signing a lot of new customer bases. And when you're a growth company and you have a huge PE and you're up at these levels, you need to hit everywhere, and they didn't. So they're down a little bit. We'll see what they want to do. We'll keep an eye on this one because this is a good barometer. If they can't run, probably not much is. As far as the rest of the sector, Salesforce, ServiceNow, Adobe, Oracle, right? They're all going to tell you when they're ready. Earnings are coming up here, already had now. They're all going to tell you when they're ready to go. Right now, the market has this fear that AI is completely going to take over the software space and software will no longer be required. You're not going to need these companies, that AI will do it all. There's some mixed truth to that. You're still going to need people to review AI, and you're still going to, it's It's companies that are actually writing things that are doing really writing programming that a layer on top to get at the data, they're going to be in trouble, right? If you're just taking your data and they're just providing an interface to your own data, those companies might struggle a bit. There's companies that really manipulate that data or help you gather that data, they're going to still be fine. So we'll see how this goes. We'll see what they do. Bottom line is we're seeing a lot of weakness here, and we'll wait for us to tell us they're ready. And that brings us over to some of the big names we want to talk about. I'm going to start off with Google. Google, great report. Has the narrative changed in tech? Well, the spending, maybe. Google spending 180 to 185 billion this year, twice what they spent last year on CapEx, and the market's suddenly worried. I trust these guys know what they're doing. I'm trusting they're looking at their books and what they have coming up and saying, we can build out. We keep building, we'll keep making money, and we know their profit levels. I'm not worried about the Googles and Amazons of the world because they have tremendous profits and the ability to take this and make this work. Um, if Steve Eisman had an interesting thing. Says if you're a private investor in OpenAI, this report terrifies you. Same thing if you're in Perplexity or in Anthropic, right? All these non-public companies, because Google has all that money to eat this up, where OpenAI doesn't. And they're right. He's right about one thing. If the market's turning negative towards AI and this kind of deep investment into it, and suddenly OpenAI and Perplexity and Anthropic cannot get money out of the private market, they're in trouble, because that means like Google, who is already generating billions of dollars from AI, and Microsoft and Amazon and eventually Apple are going to start eating their lunch. So like that report needs to get back above the 8-day here, but overall, like this one, 332.40 area needs to break. Microsoft, we talked about it. It was a bad report. Shorted it a couple times this week. It came down. It found a home here for now. It filled this gap. We'll see if this holds or not. It's extended. I wouldn't be shorting it here. I'd like to look for a bounce at the 8-day and see what happens there. Meta, again, increased their CapEx spending. I still thought that was a fabulous report. Big guidance raise, blowout report. As long as it holds the 50-day, I like it. If it gets back up and going, I really like it. I'll probably add to my stock position on this one. This one I'll keep on my radar. Be advised that if we do drop and the market comes down, there is another gap down to the 614 area. Amazon. I wish I had something better to say about it. The report was okay. Again, they're still struggling to meet demand. They increased their capex to 200 billion. They're telling you they have the money. They have the money and they have the orders if they can meet the demand. So they're going to increase capex to 200 billion to include grow out their data center. They really haven't announced any significant plans for AI other than they're using it in there to sell stuff more online and also to place advertisements. Be interesting seeing where that goes. Bottom line is it could have gotten killed here. It held this 200 area and it came back up here, and 211.44 is the gap. Keep an eye on this to see if it wants to come up and fill that gap back up to 220. I still own my shares. I covered them at June calls. I'm willing to let them be called away, or I'll adjust on the fly as we go. What does that leave us with? Apple and Tesla. Apple, big move, nice move up here, back to the 280 area here, just shy of that all-time high of 288. They're not spending money on CapEx. They are doing AI differently. Instead of spending money on CapEx, they're going to give money to Google. Keep in mind something with CapEx, that money in the year you spend it, you can take 100% of the deduction. That's a huge win for Google and Meta and Amazon. People aren't recognizing the tax benefit they may have there. Anyway, we'll see what Apple comes up with. Overall, this one looks good. The 8-day still down here, a little extended here, and maybe a day or two inside takes out that 280 and we hit all-time highs. Tesla's been all over the place this week, back here on the 8-day. We'll see what it wants to do. It's just not trading well. It needs to clear that 8-day and then the 21-day. It has been struggling with these now for the last month and a half, and we'll see overall if it comes down. That 200-day might be interesting. Other names out there like Uber, they came back off the earnings. We'll see. Names in the space section, ONDS, down move. We'll see if it can wake back up or not here. It's just kind of quiet right now. We'll put this in the same boat. Rocket Lab, all these high flyers, ASTS, right? They all came back in a little bit. Again, let's see how they react here and see where they go. So I hope you guys enjoy the weekend. Have a good one. I'll do charts next weekend. Enjoy the Super Bowl. Link in the description if you want to join us for $50 for the first month. We'd love to have you. Everybody have a great weekend, and see you in the room tomorrow morning.